Good evening. You're watching Brass Tacks with me, Anusha Soni. The Tawang clash continues to dominate the winter session of the parliament. The BJP has taken an exception to the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's statement where he termed China's aggression as thrashing, quote unquote. Now, to exactly quote what Rahul Gandhi has said while referring to China, "Hame Arunachal mein peet rahe hain," unquote. They are thrashing us in Arunachal. In that statement, Rahul Gandhi also demanded accountability from the government vis-a-vis Chinese border transgressions. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar condemned the statement by the Congress leader, reiterating government's commitment to resolving border disputes with the neighbouring country. But beyond the political statements, there are two important facets to focus upon. One is the narrative around national security that has been the core strength of the BJP government, which has led to a reset in the political narrative, with the opposition becoming far more cautious and perhaps even defensive. And second is the need to have a constructive political dialogue around national security with the propaganda machinery of China or even Pakistan watching this closely. But first up, a special report.
They do not deserve to have the word pitai. The word pitai should not be used for Rajya.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar taking on Congress MP Rahul Gandhi for his remarks on the Tawang clash last week.
We have no problem if there is political differences, if there is even political criticism. I have heard sometimes that my own understanding needs to be deepened. I think we should not directly or indirectly criticize our Jawans.
While criticizing the Modi government over China's advances in Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang sector, Rahul Gandhi had claimed that our troops are being thrashed by the PLA.
जो हमारे जवानों को अरुणाचल प्रदेश में पीट रहे हैं और सरकार उसको छुपाने की कोशिश कर रही है, सरकार उसको इग्नोर कर रही है। उनका लद्दाख की साइड और अरुणाचल की साइड पूरा ऑफेंसिव प्रिपरेशन चल रहा है। हिंदुस्तान की सरकार सोई हुई है।
The clashes in Tawang continue to rock Parliament for a second week. While the opposition has accused the Modi government of running away from a debate on China,
not a single discussion on the border situation or with regard to what our relationship with China currently is. How do we manage this relationship in the medium term and in the short term? These are extremely serious issues which warrant a discussion in Parliament.
मोदी सरकार ट्रांसपेरेंट नहीं है, नंबर वन। दूसरा, वो आधी सच बोलते हैं, आधा झूठ बोलते हैं, मिसरीडिंग फैक्ट्स कहते हैं। तो हमारी फौज स्ट्रांग है, बहादुर है, मगर हमारी सरकार बड़ी कमजोर है।
The centre slammed the opposition for disrupting the winter session of Parliament.
The opposition should allow Parliament to function smoothly. Let other issues which are prevailing, which other members want to raise, also get an opportunity to be heard.
As the political war of words intensifies, the Dalai Lama has made his stand clear.
Now China also now more flexible. Okay. But there's no point to return to China. I prefer India.
But the question remains, why play politics over an issue of national security?
Well, nobody would disagree that in a democracy there should be constructive dialogue even around national security. But what differentiates constructive dialogue from mere politicking is perhaps the kind of language we use, the kind of statements we make, and the kind of questions that are raised on the government of the day. To discuss more about this issue, joining us on the broadcast is Sanju Verma. She is the national spokesperson for the BJP. We are also expecting Adil Singh Borapoparai from the Congress party to join us in just a bit. Smita Prakash, who is the editor of ANI, is also joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Monica Verma, who is a strategic affairs expert, is with us on the broadcast. Lieutenant General retired Shankar Prasad, who's the former DG Infantry, is also joining us on the show. Sanjuji, I'm coming to you first, and I ask this question to you because you're the government of the day, the elected government of the day. The opposition has all the right to ask the government questions about national security. That doesn't make them anti-national. We are a democracy at the end of the day. But what separates, at least for the government of the day, from mere politicking or the responsible questions of the opposition? Because the argument of the opposition parties is that whenever we want to have a dialogue with the government over national security, we're called anti-nationals. We are called somebody who don't respect the armed forces because the government doesn't want to engage with us constructively.
Anusha, let's be very clear.
Yeah.
On Vijay Divas, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, on Vijay Divas, and look at the sheer timing, it couldn't have been more embarrassing. On Vijay Divas, what does Rahul Gandhi say? He says that हमारे जवानों की चीनियों ने जमकर पिटाई की. Look at the language. When you don't celebrate the valor of your armed forces, it is not acceptable. But when you go 2 steps further and actually try and undermine their credibility and demoralize them in the most vile terms, running foul of what they have actually achieved along the line of actual control, then tell me, is it wrong when the Bharatiya Janata Party says that Rahul Gandhi is speaking the PLA's language? I don't think so. And let me tell you something else. I was, listening into that clip of Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, which has gone viral on social media. P. Chidambaram, during the discussion in the Rajya Sabha said, there is a video and there is a document which shows that the Chinese have actually not just attempted a transgression, but there has been an encroachment into our territory. And when Jagdeep Dhankhar told him, I use my authority as the chair of the house that you should lay down before the house. What is the document that you're referring to? Which is the video that you're referring to? P. Chidambaram simply tried to digress and deflect from the issue. Not once did he say, yes, I have the video, I have the document, which shows that there has indeed been an encroachment of land. There is a difference between an attempted transgression and taking kabza of our zameen. Be it S. Jaishankar, be it Rajnath Singh, be it Union Home Minister Amit Shah, they have all spoken in one voice. पिछले 8 सालों में ना 1 इंच जमीन कब्जा हुआ है, ना हम आगे चलकर 1 इंच जमीन कब्जा होने देंगे. It couldn't have been more clearer.
2 points I want you to address before I bring in Adil into the discussion. One is that at various friction points where the government and the government of the day insists that we need to go back to the status quo ante, we are fighting the Chinese, we are disengaging with them at multiple friction points. Status quo ante is being demanded by the government. Yes, the Chinese have crossed the Lakshman Rekha, they have once again transgressed into our land, and the stated government position is that we are not going to, cede an inch of our territory. But shouldn't the factual position of what it exists today be clarified on the floor of the House? And the second point I want to ask you, the opposition insists that there should be a discussion on the floor of the House, and that is why we are witnessing so many, the kind of hullabaloo and the kind of disruptions which are happening on the floor of the House. Why is the government shying from a discussion on the floor of the House?
Let's be very clear. Under Rule 266 and 267, which pertain to business of the House, on the floor of the Parliament, the opposition is well within its right to demand a discussion, more so when it pertains to matters of national security. But, let me be very clear. There is the National Security Act of 1980, 1980, signed off by none other than ex-President Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy, and which was actually brought into Parliament and made into an act by none other than the late Indira Gandhi. And the National Security Act of 1980 gives the incumbent ruling government of the day the power and the constitutional authority to decide how much it wants to divulge, when it wants to divulge, and with whom it wants to engage from the opposition in matters of national security. You tell me one thing. Forget about constitutional technicalities. How can the ruling dispensation of the day engage with an opposition which has started off with a mindset which is predatory, in terms of making reckless allegations. You look at the entire...
Sanjay, I want to go back to the statement of Rahul Gandhi, and Adil will be able to tell us more about it. Adil, I heard that entire soundbite, and I'm quoting what Rahul Gandhi said. He also demanded a lot of accountability from the government, that we should have discussion, we should, ask the government tough questions on what is happening along the LAC. But he said, Arunachal mein hame peet rahe hain. And this is exactly the phrase to which the Foreign Affairs Minister also today said that that's not the kind of language we should use against our armed forces. The BJP says it only depicts your mindset towards the armed forces.
Well, Anusha, I'll request you to give me adequate time because since the Congress party, as usual, is being put into the witness box.
No, you're not being put in the witness box.
I think...
No, Adil, I'll give you the time, but I don't appreciate you beginning with this caveat. I think I asked all the questions to Sanju Verma in all fairness.
I appreciate that.
And I'm asking the questions to you in similar, fairness.
I appreciate
Please go ahead.
I appreciate that. Now, coming to the issue at hand, I don't think anybody on this panel can disagree that Rahul Gandhi is the son of a Shaheed. He is the son of a man who laid his life for the integrity and the sovereignty of this country. He understands the pain of a family which has lost its loved one. So therefore, we certainly don't need lessons on patriotism or nationalism from the BJP, point number one. Point number two, can you hear me, Anusha?
I can hear you all fine. Go ahead.
Point number two, and which is the more critical part, and which you said very succinctly. What does status quo ante mean? Perhaps the BJP spokesperson doesn't know the meaning of status quo ante. Status quo ante means that you go back to the position which existed prior to April 2020. Now, I asked this question to the BJP. If there was no encroachment, what are they discussing at Galwan? What are they discussing in Ladakh? What were those 25 rounds of talks about if there is no encroachment? Why do you agree to buffer zones if there is no encroachment? So obviously, when you've had 25 rounds of talks, that certainly means that there is encroachment and you want the Chinese to move back to status quo ante. It is plain logical English. If somebody wants to remain in a state of denial, that's up to them. The problem today, Anusha, is that the BJP is in a state of denial and it is practicing obfuscation. Had it not been for a national daily, perhaps the BJP would not have come clean.
Adil, I have a follow-up question.
Let me put something very fundamental. This is important. Anusha, just give me 30 seconds.
Finish your point. Yeah.
The Congress party fully supports the Indian Army. We have a very courageous and a brave Indian Army, and they will repel any adversary. Unfortunately, we have a timid government. What is their response to Chinese belligerents? Ban TikTok. Okay. Which world are we living in?
Adil, I think, all right, no, I appreciate the political spokesperson. I'm coming to you. Sanjuji, I'm coming to you. I have a follow-up question for Adil. Adil, I think you and I are aware about the different kind of propaganda machineries which are at work today. Any statement made by any leader, forget, a leader from the ruling dispensation, even by an opposition leader, is used by the propaganda machinery of the Chinese or the Pakistani. The argument that Sanju Verma was making is that the government of the day, in the best of the national interests, exercises its discretion and decides the extent to which they want to put out the information. Are you also saying that this is a government which is working against the national interest? Because that charge sounds very similar to what the BJP is making against you. Then how does it make you any different from the BJP?
Now, let me be very clear, Anusha. This is a government which is more interested in protecting the image of the Prime Minister as a strong man rather than protecting our borders. And I'll give you a clear example. The Chinese say that there was no intrusion in Galwan. The Indian Prime Minister also says there was no intrusion in Galwan. It's a matter of fact that we lost 20 of our brave hearts. There are 24 rounds of talks. This is so logical. It is logical to a class 10 student. If there is no encroachment, if there is no intrusion, what are you discussing at Galwan? Are you discussing
before I go to Sanju,
are you discussing the weather at Galwan?
I am going back to Sanju Verma, but Adil, you haven't responded to me about the statement made by Rahul Gandhi. What was that statement? वो हमें अरुणाचल में पीट रहे हैं. How do you understand that statement? I'm not.
You have to see the statement in a context.
I said that to you. I heard the entire statement, and yes, he's asking some pertinent questions, but he also makes this loose comment.
Hear me out.
Yes.
You must give me a chance to respond. You have to
It
see the
cannot be a
statement.
Sanju, 30 seconds, I'm coming.
That's
30
the
seconds.
problem. It is very, very difficult to have a debate with.
No. There is a very fair debate happening.
It is not
Adil,
possible to have a debate
let's
with
move
her.
on.
Had I
Let's
known-
move on. Let's move on from personal jibes here. Make your point, and then I'll go to
It's a
Sanju
reality.
Verma. I have other guests as well.
Now I'm responding to your question.
Yeah.
Anusha, how do you seek accountability in a democracy? You have a government which is obfuscating and stonewalling any discussion. Let me remind to my friends, in 1962, when the war with China was going on, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Sahab was protesting at the boat club. He was asking questions from the government, and rightly so. We're a democracy.
Okay.
We're not
I
a
have to bring in other
autocracy.
people also into the discussion. Sanju ji, a quick response from you.
Anusha, let me be very clear that people who doubt the credibility and the strong man image of Narendra Modi should know that just last week, we successfully test launched the Agni 5 missile. It has a moniker called the China missile because it has an operational range of more than 7,000 kilometers, which means it can go right into the heart of China and destroy targets if it chooses to do so. Last week, we also had the 36th Rafale aircraft being added to our Air Force to strengthen our capabilities. This is the same Narendra Modi-led government, which clearly told off Putin, both at Samarkand and elsewhere, that dialogue is the order of the day. We need to exercise restraint. So please don't give us lessons in how to manage diplomacy
I didn't know all this
and
started
foreign
post
affairs.
2014.
And can you please now stop rambling?
Thank you for
No.
enlightening
This is not how we are going to have a debate and a discussion. The political spokespersons have had their time. I have three other guests who have been very patiently listening to this entire discussion. Dr. Monica Verma, Smrita Prakash, and Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. Smrita ji, I'm coming to you next and talking about the political discourse which is happening in the country. The manner in which Rahul Gandhi's statement has been objected to by none other than the foreign minister himself. Is it just a loose comment, or does it really reflect a certain kind of a mindset? More importantly, the question that I asked in the beginning of the show, this entire debate around national security seems to have got a reset. And at least in the opposition, everybody is very cautious in the manner in which this dialogue or this debate is happening. Is there a way that we can have constructive dialogue and debate about it and yet not, give certificates of nationalism to each other?
About certificates of nationalism and about questioning people's nationalism, Anusha, just let me say this, that sons and daughters of people who were killed in action, they get no free pass. People like me who have friends, classmates and all who have lost parents in action, let me tell you, none of those kids got any free pass. So no, Rahul Gandhi will get no free pass just because his father or his grandmother were killed in action. They were killed by terrorists. The caustic remarks that Rahul Gandhi made, yes, some people might say that they were in poor taste, they were out of place. You can give all kinds of epithets to that. You can say that his manner of speaking should not have been done, see it in context. Okay, fine. Even if you see it in context, let's put it in context, Anusha. What was he saying? He was making a snide remark about the media. He was not talking about the Fauj at that time. He was making a snide remark at the media that the media is in cohorts with the BJP government. So again, it wasn't. And then in that he said this in a manner to say ki pitai, peet diya, and that also on Vijay Diwas. I mean, his grandmother was the architect of that 1971 war. So politically also it was a loose comment. He shouldn't have made it. The other comment that he has made in the past is casting doubts about the External Affairs Minister, saying that he lacks depth.
Yeah.
Now, even if you were to talk to any of the External Affairs Ministers of the Congress government who are alive today, I think there is Salman Khurshid and there is S.M. Krishna and there is Dr. Manmohan Singh. These are the three, because Dr. Manmohan Singh held that portfolio for some time.
Sure.
If you were to talk to them, they will give you glowing recommendations of the current External Affairs Minister. And they will not in any manner endorse Mr. Gandhi's point of view that either the Foreign Service is arrogant or the Foreign Minister lacks depth or that our men on the border are being petoed, which he said ki pitai ho rahi hai. And in that laughing manner, ki peet rahe hain. That whole loose way of talking, it just did not behoove Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
Smita, I have a follow-up question to you. You know, any elected government of the day represents national interests, but it's not the nation. I think it's very patriotic if you continue to question your government on all the points, including national security. But these days, I find the entire narrative around national security so ridden with different kind of phobias. And that's what I was saying. There has to be a constructive way of questioning our elected government of the day, even on national security matters.
I agree with you that national security is also a matter of debate. It should be discussed in various platforms, whether in university level, in media platforms like we are doing, or in parliament. It needs to be discussed. Totally agree with you. In a democracy, there will be multiple points of view, including on national security, including on our Fauji's. So that's fine. But questioning a government of the day does not mean you are anti-national. There's just a way of putting it. If you put it in, if you discuss it in a constructive manner, there is no harm. And I think the government should talk about this, and they should bring the opposition on book, because when we are talking in a position today where China believes in salami slicing on our borders, it is necessary for all wings of our country, the people of our country, the media of our country, the parliamentarians, everybody to get together, because that is the only way that you can defeat an enemy. And China is an enemy nation, as was said by our defense minister way back several years ago by George Fernandez.
And I will take that point of whether and in what way can the government also take opposition into confidence. I'll go to the BJP guest as well. But before that, Dr. Monica Verma, I'm coming to you. The Chinese are pursuing an aggressive policy ever since 2020, ever since the Galwan clash happened. And most experts argue that this entire stance by the Chinese will continue. It's an expansionist policy that, the Chinese are pursuing. And India will see many such difficult times to come, and perhaps we are ready for them. That's what the government has also insisted. But the internal domestic politics, the different political views of the government and opposition, how does it play out strategically for any nation, say for India? And not to forget that one war is fought along the LAC, if that ever were to happen, or it happened earlier. But there's also an information and a propaganda war which is fought in the public domain.
Well, Anusha, you know what? I've been listening to all the comments, especially from the people who are representing political parties here.
Sure.
And as a young scholar of international relations, it's a sort of a very worrying trend. Because, I as a scholar compare what happens in India with other countries. National security is definitely sacrosanct, but at the same time, look at how other democracies deal with it. You're right that China's aggression is increasing. It's, we've already fought a war with China, and not a very, pretty picture it painted of India's capabilities, when we did that. So with such an aggressive China on, war front with India, these political statements, especially the one that has been made by Rahul Gandhi, definitely, demoralizes our troops. Because, this government, especially, I'm talking about BJP, since 2014, they have put, energy into making sure that this policy of appeasing China is somewhere, brake should be put on that. So if you look at the statements that the External Affairs Minister is making, I'm glad by the kind of, statements that he's making. He clearly said that our situation with China is right now not normal. It's a big statement to talk about a country like China, that our situation is not normal. That means, whether it's about trade or it's about, other things that we can talk with China about, we are putting everything on hold unless our security, our national security, is ensured, unless it stops the incursions on the LAC. Okay. So I think, this...
Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, I'll take that point, Dr. Monica Verma, to Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, who's with us on the show. So I think the most important word, and I want all of our panelists to listen to you when we talk about the kind of statements coming in from the government and the opposition. What does it do to the morale of the armed forces? The manner in which, say, a comment by Rahul Gandhi was made, the Congress party, of course, has a different version of it. They say it was said in a certain context and nobody can give certificates of nationalism. We have a statement coming in from the External Affairs Minister as well, who has said that, look, you have to be very careful about what you're saying. But I ask you from the point of view of armed forces, how does it impact them, the domestic politics, on a national security issue?
Thank you so much for inviting me. My contribution to this debate can only be very, very thoroughly professional, single-minded professional exposure that I can do.
Yes.
I do not wish to comment on any of the political statements that have been made by the previous commentators. The primary thing we must understand that in a democracy, every citizen, not only politicians, every citizen has a right to ask a question. Whether it's informed question or ill-informed question or a motivated question is a matter of each individual who's raising these questions. That is for the government to decide in power as to how to respond. The second important point we must all understand and acknowledge that the Indian armed forces are not armed forces of a political party. They are the armed forces of this nation. Every single man who is born in this country owns this armed forces. The governments change every 4 or 5 years. Whoever comes into power directs the operations of the military. Please don't call it a A-party military or a B-party military. We have no role to play in that. We serve the government as a democracy as laid down in the Constitution. My next point is, I would like to expose to you and my panelists and to the people listening to this debate as to how the military operates. The military has a very, very elaborate process of discussing how we deal with a particular situation, whether it is relating to China, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar or anybody else. We have in each of the military services, the Army, Navy and the Air Force, certain directorates called the Perspective Planning Directorate and the Military or Air or Naval Operational Directorate.
Yes, sir.
These two directorates work out the threat perception in relationship with the intelligence agencies available to the government of India, both internal and external. We also have the inputs on the Ministry of Home Affairs, and then what is called a CDS today, and also a Chiefs of Staff Committee puts this all together and makes a response. Therefore, this response is highly professional, not only by the military experts, but also by the other agencies of the government of India. Now, that is something which is only known to very, very select people. I mean, if a political person A, political person B makes any statement, it is irrelevant. He can do what he feels like. I mean, I have no concern with it. What is important is this, that what has been worked out over a period of time, approved by the CC as the Cabinet Committee of Security, is the national policy. And you cannot find fault with it.
And Lieutenant General Prasad, I listen to you. I listen to you with utmost keenness, and there's so much that I'm sure.
Can I just respond to you?
Please finish your point. Can I
respond to the specific question? You asked a specific question as to effect on morale. Let me tell you, it is obviously going to be hurting not only the troops in the border, but hurts us. When we sitting in Delhi here, who have served for 40 years in the army, to say, army pit rahi hai. This is such ill-informed statement. Whoever may have given, I don't even care for that.
I am glad you put it the way it is. I'm glad you've given a direct answer to it, sir. I'm glad, and I will take that. I want to take that, sir. I want to take that point to Adil. I'll come back to you, sir. I apologize for interrupting. Adil, there is a.
I just want to make one more sentence. So that just listen to it. Just listen to one sentence.
Okay, sir.
I wish you had seen the videos. किसने किसकी पिटाई की, वो जरा देख लीजिए. उसे साफ जाहिर होता है कि किसने किसकी पिटाई की. ऐसे मत कह दीजिए कि पिट रही है इंडियन आर्मी.
आदिल, एक बहुत सीधा एक स्टेटमेंट है जो लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल शंकर प्रसाद बोल रहे हैं, that forget the forces who are fighting on the LAC. Of course their morale would be affected, but even the ones who are retired, who are now sitting in Delhi watching the politics of our country, that's not the kind of statement you make. And I don't think there is anything political about what Lieutenant General Prasad has said. Adil.
Well, Anusha, in the age of social media and the age of misinformation, certain statements are taken out of the context. But the core issue is, which the BJP and their propagandists are very deftly trying to avoid, which is that the government of the day does not have a coherent policy vis-a-vis China. And just to respond to Dr. Monica Verma, she said that the government has put trade on the back burner. She's wrong. The trade is touched almost $100 billion. The deficit vis-a-vis China has never been higher.
You ducked my question. Adil, you ducked my question. Adil, you ducked my question. I won't let you duck my question. I asked you.
No, I'm not ducking your question.
You're ducking my question.
I just want to tell.
Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad said, कौन किसको आके पीट कर गया, आपने वीडियो नहीं देखा. और जब आपको नहीं पता, तो आप ऐसे कमेंट्स क्यों कर रहे हैं? सीधा सवाल है जो उन्होंने पूछा आपसे, Adil. There's a straight question.
Context to the statement. It was vis-a-vis the media. I will reiterate, the media does not put the government in the dock. The media is treating the BJP with kid gloves. The Prime
Really?
Minister lied.
I don't think that's what has happened in the last 25
lied
minutes.
when he said that there was no intrusion. If there was no intrusion, what are 25 rounds of talks about?
I don't think the government is being treated with any kind of kid gloves, neither in the parliament, not in the public domain.
Come on, Anusha, you and I both know.
No, I don't know anything what you're referring to. I really don't want to even get into that.
Not you, but we all know.
Sanju, make your point. Sanju, make your point. Sanju, make your point. Sanju, make your point. Make your point. I disagree with all the statement that Adil is making today. I am
Then
not
let's
in agreement.
agree to disagree.
No,
in that
yes,
case.
I disagree with you. Sanju, make your point.
Anusha, before coming to Adil's statement, let me tell you, please don't give me a bhashan about my English. आपकी और आपकी पूरी बिरादरी से ज़्यादा पढ़ी लिखी हूँ मैं. So please keep your certificates to yourself. I've studied from the best
What does
schools,
status
okay?
quo ante mean?
Yes, so please
What does
keep
status
quiet,
quo ante mean?
keep that
Just
certificate
enlighten
to
me.
yourself.
Enlighten me. What does
you did
status
not
quo ante
allow me
mean?
to have
Adil, I will give you uninterrupted time to respond. No, Adil, I am sure.
to debate with this man.
Adil, you argue in courts. Adil, you argue in courts. You never speak over anyone. I think that's a bad manner. You and I know that. That's something we can agree upon. I think that's something we can agree upon. Sanju, make your point. Then I'll give Adil the time to respond.
Yes. Anusha, people who question Narendra Modi need to know who gave up West Pakistan, who gave up East Pakistan, who gave up Tibet, who gave up Nepal, who gave up Coco Island, who gave up Aksai Chin, who gave up Karakoram Pass, who gave up Gwadar Port, who gave up Cabo Valley, who gave up permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, who gave up Tia Pangnak, who gave up large slices of Chumur, who gave up Dumchele, who gave up large slices of Chabji Valley. Do you know who? It was Nehru, and then after Nehru, it were the Darbaris from the Congress party. So, don't give lessons in integrity and how to manage foreign relations to the BJP. Point number 2, Anusha, let's be very clear that, who does S. Jaishankar report to? Who does Union Home Minister Amit Shah report to? Who does Defense Minister Rajnath Singh report to? Anyone who has a basic understanding of the Constitution knows that India functions under parliamentary democracy with collective responsibility, with the head of the cabinet being the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in this case. So when Rajnath Singh clearly says not an inch of land has been given, when Amit Shah says not an inch of land has been given, when S. Jaishankar says not an inch of land has been given, they are basically telling you what the Modi government
What are 24
is
rounds of
actually
talks about?
elucidating.
Are they discussing the
Now,
weather
if
in
you
the
lack
car?
common sense, if you lack common sense to
What are they
understand
discussing?
basic
What are
vocabulary,
24 rounds of talks about? Are they
One
discussing the
sec.
weather? Then tell me so, that they're discussing the weather at 15,000 feet. What does status quo ante mean? Please tell me
who
then.
forced the Chinese to voluntarily
So
disengage
just say that
post
status quo
Galwan?
ante means something
There was
else.
a 30-member panel that went to visit Galwan in May 2021.
What is 24
Rahul
rounds
Gandhi
of
was
talks
invited.
about?
Rahul
It's a very
Gandhi
simple
chose to
question. What are
disappear to
24 rounds?
Italy.
Anusha, please
Rahul
ask
Gandhi
her.
All right.
Please
chose
ask
to
her.
All right.
to
Adil,
Italy.
Adil,
Rather
Adil.
than
24
going
rounds
to
of talks
Galwan
about
with
the
the
15,000
parliamentary
feet.
panel.
I have last few
Status quo
minutes.
ante.
I have last few minutes. I have last few minutes on the show today. I have last few minutes on the show. Adil, let's not distort the messaging coming in from the government. That's what BJP is saying. And I want to put
government is lying.
Adil, listen to the point. Listen to the point I'm making.
Harishchandra.
Listen to the point I'm making. When the government says that not an inch of land has been given, that means that even if the Chinese have transgressed, that's not the position India is going to accept. And that's the position we are going to contest with the Chinese. We are going to have multiple rounds of dialogue with them. And in fact, that's the point that Sanju was making, that there are various historical examples where our territory has been given up to the enemy state. But that's not the position of the government. That's what they're saying.
Well, Anusha, it breaks my heart because the government of the day is giving a clean chit to the Chinese. Now, please hear this. The Chinese say that there is no incursion. The Prime Minister says there is no incursion. It is a matter of fact that we lost 20 bravehearts. Now, please put these statements together. It defies common sense. And what is status quo ante? The stated position of the External Affairs Ministry is we want status quo ante. And now please juxtapose this with 24 rounds of talks.
Okay.
It's a very simple question which I've been saying. What are 24 rounds of talks about if there is no inclusion?
Sanjay ji, as I close this debate, I want to put one question to you. I want to put one question to you as I end this debate. Has there been enough attempts by the government of the day to reach out to the opposition and take them into confidence? And once again, the question is being asked to you because you're the elected government of the day. So that this was the point that Smita ji was also making, that if you want to have a constructive dialogue around national security, you need to take opposition into confidence. And that's the onus which is on the elected government. Sanju ji, 30 seconds, please.
Was that for me?
Yes, Sanju Verma, for you.
Okay. This is a very serious debate without getting into this back and forth of allegations. Why we are having 24 rounds? We might even have 54 rounds. We might have 74 rounds because foreign policy cannot be boxed in. Foreign policy is a continuously changing dynamic. And if we have hostile neighbors, we will engage in dialogue, we will engage in restraint. But जब ईंट का जवाब पत्थर से देना होगा, तब हम ईंट का जवाब पत्थर से भी देंगे. And my only submission to the Congress party is, please answer why Rahul Gandhi did not visit Galwan when he was invited to do so along with 30 other parliament members in May 2021. Why did he vanish to Italy? Rahul Gandhi follows the policy of shoot and scoot. Okay. When you are invited to visit Galwan, you don't go there. But then after 5 months, you start saying, "Arey, Cheen ne hamari zameen par kabza kar liya."
I do believe, as I said in the beginning of the show, I thank all my guests, Sanju Verma, Adil Singh Boparai, Smita Prakash, Dr. Monica Verma, and Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. I do thank all of you for joining us on the broadcast. As I said in the beginning, there is a need to have a constructive dialogue and debate around this entire issue of national security. But yes, with the neighboring countries like China and Pakistan and their propaganda machinery very closely watching in, there is indeed a need to be very, very cautious about the national security issues, as the learned gentleman on the panel was also pointing out. We're slipping into a very short break, but on the other side, Belagavi turns into a fortress as the Karnataka Assembly's winter session begins right there.